Hello, welcome, mate. That went well. That went really well. I'm happy with that. I'm happy with that. God. So it's a new season.
One day we will get it and it will be flawless. I'm talking flawless. You'll be like, these guys have come from Hollywood and they're producing this. It's great. It's amazing. You will one day. Just hold out for us. All right, guys.
So we are, what is it, the 2021 new season. It's our new podcast, which obviously we're going to do every Wednesday. But there was an amazing thing that happened. The first game of the season, obviously, the mighty Fulham were back in the Premier League. And they played a little club in North London, Enfield Town, Spurs, I don't know. Some team that play in red anyway. I'm going to get slaughtered now. I know the next
absolutely fine. You crack on. I'll be the bigger man here. I'll be the bigger man and I'll just let that completely go. But you are outnumbered on this particular podcast. For once, you are outnumbered. We don't normally get Arsenal boys on the pod. We've got a fantastic one lined up for this evening. But first and foremost, Lee, how have you been? How have you been? Obviously, we've not really done a pod for the last couple of weeks. IRL stuff really gets in the way for Lee and myself as well. So, sometimes you've got to take care of yourself, and that's, we're big believers of that. You've got to take care of yourself to be able to be in a position to be able to take care of other people. So, we've taken care of ourselves, and we are back. We're going to be talking about the Arsenal to Fulham walk, which was incredible, great turnout. But first and foremost, I need to thank the Palace boys, the Andes, because I promised them that I would thank them personally, because I mentioned pre-walk that they were going to be joining us. The Palace fans were going to be joining us, and we wanted to say thank you for that. So this is the acknowledgement that they actually turned up, and they were amazing. Loved all of them. The Andy guys, incredible people. So I just want to say thank you on behalf of me and him. Sure,
definitely.
You echo those words.
It really, when we arrived at the Emirates early doors on Saturday, excitement is first game of the season, and all of a sudden, I looked over to my right-hand side, and you see the Palace fans in their tops walking.
It's great.
Down.
It's really great, and it really shows. It's not just about Arsenal and Fulham or whatever teams that were walking from stadium to the other stadium. It's just about football fans coming together, and that really hammers it home when Palace fans that have got nothing to do with that game just want to be involved because of the cause. So, thank you to the Palace fans.
A big thank you to the Chancellor's Pub, who phenomenal. Carl there was wonderful, put on 100% for us and made us feel really welcome. It is a pub of our choice that we go to, and when we do the Reading walks, we always meet up there, and it's just a great pub, and it's got a great picture in there of a wonderful woman. So it's I think without further ado, I think we should.
Yeah, let's get our special guest on this evening.
Yes, from Gooner Town, I believe. Gooner Town. Yes.
Good stuff.
He's gonna correct me, and
he's gonna
already. He's gonna have a go at me already. I just want to welcome Dave. Dave's a very inspirational person with a very poignant message, and that's something I hope people take a lot out of. And really, I look up to this guy. Really, really interesting man. Dave, how are you, sir?
Very well. It is Gunners Town, by the way. Gunners Town. Yeah, no, I'm very well. And thank you for having me on as a guest. Honoured.
No, this is personally. I was when we first caught up on the walk. We'll get back to the walk in a minute, but I wanted you. I spoke to you personally. I says I want you to come on and really talk about. You've got a very amazing. I'll let you explain it. It's blew me away. But like I said, mate, I look up to you, and I'm looking forward to this chat. So let's start. Obviously, Dave, you're Gooner. Do you want to give a lowdown on Gooner Town?
Gunners Town, even. So you've got a mental block, Lee. Gunners Town is a blog that I co-own with another Arsenal fan who lives in South Africa. It's really just a platform for anybody who wants to write about Arsenal. As long as you're reasonably talented, or you think you might be, and you want to give it a go, it's a anyone welcome platform. And obviously, once people come, they stay with us, and sometimes they move on to bigger and better things, and sometimes they stay with us. So we've got a stable of about sort of 15, 20, some occasional, some regular writers, including myself. So it's quite a popular platform, and we get a lot of good writers on there. So yeah, it's doing well at the moment. So yeah,
no, definitely check that out. So we come to the first game of the season. It's all excitement, tense, like as a Fulham fan, it's excitement, joy.
I was excited.
We got first game of the season. We got Arsenal at home. Great, nice. Just what I need after the little hiatus we had over the summer. How did you find out about Walker Talk first and foremost, Dave?
I think to be honest with you, someone else who was on the walk, Jackie, who's a friend of mine. I think I saw a tweet about it last year before the Palace walk last season, and I seem to recall, and my memory's vague. Either I got you on Love Sport, or you may not have been on when I was on, but I certainly suggested it because I was doing a weekend show at the time on Love Sport, and I think we had you on the week before the walk to talk about it. Because at the time, no, that's not fair. I've always been interested in anybody who's talking about men's mental health or mental health in general, because I think the problem is in our society has been that people don't talk about it. We need to get rid of the stigma. So when I saw about it and I heard about it, I got you on the radio. But I guess from then I didn't really think about it. And it was only recently again when I saw it was the Arsenal game and you were doing it. I just turned to my missus and said, well, crikey, I can't go to the game, so this would be a good thing to do. So and she agreed. So hence I came with my daughter and my son-in-law and a couple of other friends, and we thoroughly enjoyed it. And everything you say in your blogs and what you talk about it is good to talk to other people about football, whether it's the same club or a different club. It's something that everyone, the passion you share, and it's liberating to talk to other people about the game. So it's a great concept of combining the walking and the talking. So with football. So.
No, I totally agree. It's a simple belief, isn't it? You've got football, you support Arsenal, I support Fulham, and coming together on a match day, our paths would never have met. Be that Deacon, be that the Palace lot, be that the Birmingham lot, be whatever walk we've done, we have met the most amazing people, and really inspirational people, and people that like the Reading lot that I look up to, and everybody is just amazing. And to cross paths and, like you say, talk football and just be a brutal, honest conversation with football. And when you're walking, there's no phones, so subsequently you're not distracted. You're kind of watching when you're going, and you're kind of enjoying the conversation, and you're just bouncing off everybody to see how the vibe is with everybody. And it just blew me away. How did you find the walk? It was, what was it, 10 miles?
Well, I found the 9 miles okay. It was the sort of mental thing of having finished the walk and then walking in a mile and a half to the pub afterwards. It was it was absolutely
I was waiting for that. I got
it's down the road.
Yeah, it's just around the corner. No, it was it's good. I mean, we've all been probably walking and running and doing things more than we were, in this crazy times that we're in. I've been doing a lot of walking with my wife. Again, it's good. Particularly in our situation where, I don't know how long, well, grief doesn't end. We lost someone very close, and, you can easily just stick your head under a pillow and not get out. So, whether it's walking and talking about football, whether it's walking generally, we've been doing a lot of walking. So I probably didn't find it as hard as I might have done, 6 months ago, shall we say.
No, yeah, it's quite a nice walk going through London, and Deek picked the route, which was good, but I think the downside was obviously it being an afternoon kickoff. Early after. Well,
the early start, so it restricted our movements to be able to go into certain venues, and then obviously the lockdown measurements that kicked off on the Monday, even though it was a couple of days before, a lot of venues were implementing those rules early doors. So it was really frustrating to not be able to have as many drinks as we'd wanted to along the route at 10 a.m. in the morning. But luckily, some of that I got handed a toffee vodka, little mini toffee vodkas, so that warmed up the journey for sure. The route was I just thought I'd keep it nice and simple all the way through London. Obviously I'm a tour guide for central London anyway, do you know what I mean? So I know London very, very well, but there's only so many times you what's great about the walk is with what I realized when we did it was a lot of the time when you've got bad mental health, you struggle to be in the present. And you made a very good point, Lee, about the fact that you kind of don't have your phones in your hand. And a lot of people with bad mental health, a lot of the time, they're either thinking about the future or the past. They're always looking back or always looking front, never sort of being in the moment. And when you're doing the walk and when you don't have your phone in your hand and you're talking to people right there and then, you are living in the moment, which I know sounds trivial, but for someone that struggles with bad mental health, it's a really positive thing to be able to live right there and then, not be getting stressed about something's happening later or something that's happened in the past. You're just living right in that moment, having a really good conversation with some amazing people that we're all there together for the same cause. That really hit home for me. I never really thought about it before. Even when I did the first walk from Palace to Arsenal, didn't really think about it in that aspect, because obviously I was just kind of experiencing it. But that really hit home for me during the walk. My old man turning up for the walk as well was a big moment for me as well, because it's only been a couple of years that I've really actually started to develop a relationship with my dad. It's quite funny as well, Lee, because your other half, Nicola, was like, you and your dad are really close, and it's like, haven't been. Since it's only been literally within the last year or two that we've actually started to really talk. So that was a big thing for me as well, that my old man turned up and did the walk, and then cycled 20 miles back to Barnet because he's absolutely nuts.
Yeah, I did. When we got to the pub, he buggered off, and I was like, what?
He wanted to have a beer, but then I kept on hammering home that he's got 20 miles to go. On a bike, and he said it's just uphill all the way, but it was great.
So Dave, obviously you joined the walk, and on the walk we were talking about men's future. Future men. Sorry, mate. I'm really tired at the moment. Future men. And it was quite, the concept of it was absolutely wonderful.
I think you guys should talk to them. I mean, when we lost our son last year, obviously there's, whether it's tradition or God knows, but people tend to sort of pick a charity or a cause that they think links into the situation or the individual. And my son was very, very caring young man. The way he was brought up, he was always concerned about people less well off than themselves. And also another chord was that when he was at university, when he finished university, graduated, he said there's a lot of stuff for women's mental health, and not much for men's. And he said when he was at university, when you go away from home for the first time, which everybody is, he didn't feel there was a support mechanism in place for young men. He was in Bristol, at the time we were living in Southampton. I'm sure other people were even further away and maybe didn't have the same contact he had, but it was something he talked about just before we lost him. So we wanted to choose a charity that reflected those two things, the fact he was so caring of people less well off than themselves. Hopefully as a family, that's how we are, but equally that he thought there should be a mechanism for people, whether they're moving away from home to start a new job, feel a bit isolated, whether they're moving away to start further education, feel a bit isolated. And my daughters found Future Men. And at the time, they just published a survey. It was on the news and everything at the end of 2018, where they did a survey of young men. I think I said to you on the walk, and I think 61% of young men, when they reach out, say they're struggling with anxiety or depression or any sort of mental illness, the 61% of the advice is man up.
Yeah.
And it's the most unhelpful bit of advice that any man or young man can be given. So that's the charity we found, and subsequently from the funeral right through, we've done sponsored footballing events, we've done a sponsored comedy night. I think at the moment, we're on nearly £25,000 raised since January last year for that charity, and that was about 20% of their non sort of if you like, government or sponsored funding. It was from individual. We, as a family and our community, we raised about 20% of their income last year, which makes me very proud. And it's
definitely,
particularly in lockdown, it's when young people who are vulnerable, young men, young boys, teenagers, adolescents who can't be at school, it's even worse when they're stuck in a home environment that maybe that isn't great. Them being able to sort of do virtual youth clubs and sort of with the funding that we've helped, it's been an amazing thing to experience. So as a family, we felt really great about that. But this sort of linked in, walk and talk for men linked in. So it's, if you like, it's a logical progression for my mind right now. I'm not saying I'm going to, not stop doing stuff for Future Men, but it sits alongside it very well.
That's wonderful to hear. It's an amazing family, really. You have yourself as well, Dave. I met your daughter on the walk. It was lovely, and her husband's a really nice guy, and had a nice little.
Even though he's a Chelsea fan,
yeah. Well, we were going to dig him up for that, but
no one's perfect. No one's perfect.
He came along, and he was good. But that's just massive credit to you. You lot, you know, you want to be the change. You want to do something positive, and like I said in the intro, you know, an inspiration is someone that I look up to, someone that literally listening to you and listening to the story. And so forth, it really hit home to me, and I took a lot out of the conversation me and you had on the walk. It's been on my mind for ages.
Well, you learn as you go, don't you? I mean, it's not no one necessarily expects to suffer from depression or mental health. You know, sometimes it just creeps up on you and you don't realise. Sometimes there's causes, sometimes it's just in your makeup. You know, with me, obviously, you know, grieving and you know, I'm not going to go into details, but the build up to an inquest was horrific. That's when I really was, you know, that's when I actually took sort of consult, you know, I took consult with my doctor and took medication, was because of just the build up towards the inquest. And I didn't stay on it for long. You know, not that I had an issue with being on medication for depression, but it just helped me get some sort of balance to cope with work and non-work and the build up to the inquest. So you just learn as you go. There's no rule book for grieving, and everyone will be affected differently by something so tragic as losing, you know, a 24-year-old boy. You know, there's nothing that's going to prepare anybody, whether you're a father, a mother, a sister, or a close friend. You know, and everyone will deal with it differently. And that's one of the most important things you have to learn about grieving, and what grieving brings is that there is no rule book. And also, we said very early on as a family, nothing anyone says is wrong. You know, even if you don't agree with it, because someone else says it doesn't mean it's wrong. That, you know, you have to respect that everyone's going to cope or deal with things in a different fashion. So yeah, no, it's important. And talking, obviously, is the most important thing. And being able to reach out to people, and finding out who, you know, for some people you thought were friends maybe aren't as good of friends as you thought they were, or struggle with that concept, or being that type of friend. Doesn't mean they're not a good friend, but some people find it easy to talk to people who are struggling than others, and other people who you maybe weren't expecting. You are massively pleasantly surprised by, which is a nice thing. You know, it's a journey, isn't it?
Massively. So, would you come on another walk?
Oh no, I want to. I've already introduced you to Michael, who was an had massive depression when he was captain of Orient at a young age, and subsequently dropped out of professional football, and he's been in a normal work environment. He's semi-pro. He's been playing for St Albans. He writes a great blog, which I sent to you. I've linked you into. He's keen to do the St Albans to, you know, Hemel Hempstead maybe in the non-league. And I'm already looking at the fixtures. The next logical one for us, obviously, is Palace. Palace is it's in January, I believe. Palace, Arsenal. All the other ones look a bit long for me. The Arsenal players, unless I don't really fancy the Tottenham one. I don't think that would be well received, to be honest. That's around December time. But I'll definitely do it again, and it doesn't have to be Arsenal. I'm being facetious, obviously. Yeah, I mean, certainly, you know, I'm a season ticket holder, so I'll be at every game, and some away games, but that's not going to be the case for a long time. So, you know, what a great way to be involved with other football fans. And as Deke said, you know, raise awareness for a very important issue at the same time. So I'm very keen to get more involved, as I said to you on the walk.
Oh, mate, it's just absolute music to my ears. You're, like I said, man, you're an inspirational person, someone that I look up to, and someone that I come away from that walk thinking to myself, wow. Just the presence of the man is just unbelievable. You know, we had a good old chat.
Oh, stop it!
No, I'm being honest. I'm being serious. You know, it's nice to hear such positivity in what was a very, very traumatic time and tragedy. You know, it's positivity.
Well, I'm not positive. I'm not positive every day, as you possibly imagine. But
it's quite weird, actually, Dave. I know of you on social media anyway, as I've taken a massive step away from social media recently. I used to have a heavy footprint on Twitter, but I had to take a break a few months ago, getting attacked by certain people and stuff like that for voicing opinions and stuff like that. So I had to take a little step away. But when I was on there, I know of you, Dave, and it's only kind of and we spoke obviously in the pub, and we're having a laugh about the chips and stuff like that, and just talking about Arsenal and stuff like that. and taking the mick and everything. But you know, it's only kind of just hit now how I know you on social media. As I said, I don't really go on there much anymore, but I know that story pretty well from obviously my connections, from who I know, and you know them as well. But yeah, I'm blown away. Obviously, if you're not gonna talk about it, it's fine, but I'm blown away, Dave. Your content, the content of your character from when I met you on that Saturday, and the fact that, you know, this is the story, I know this is probably the most retarded thing, but I fall in love with your character, Dave. You know, we had a really good laugh in the pub and everything like that, and then connecting the dots this evening. It's kind of like hit me home. It's hit home this evening, and I'm just, you know, you got that slow response from like Zoolander. You're still going.
Well, to be fair,
there's
a lot of bad stuff about social media. We all know
sure,
and you have to control it. I mean, I've always taken the view, and I maybe this is why I've got the following I've got. Hopefully, it's something to do with my writing. But I've always taken the view that I've never been rude to anyone on social media. I've never sworn on social media. I just don't. And people say to me, you know, when you got that, you know, people come at you when you've got a lot of followers. They just do.
Sure.
You know, it's just nature of the beast. And I just polite. I just say, oh, sorry, you know, you must have misunderstood, or just stay polite. And I say that is a positive message for mental health, because what you don't want to do is get sucked into petty arguments, because, you know, it's not relevant. You know, they're not real people that you know. And if they are real people you know, it's not going to happen. And on that note, the positive side of social media is that, you know, I mean, I've raised 25,000 as a family. We've raised 25,000 Future Men. We also raised about 8,000 for the Willow Trust in the first month after Liam passed away. And that was just a separate thing just for Arsenal fans, because it's an Arsenal foundation. We've got Hunted as the family, so special days for people. You know, and Bob Wilson's a friend. So, you know, so we did that. And that was almost exclusively from Arsenal social media. People reaching out, famous people as well. I'm not going to mention names, but people putting in sort of £500, £100, you know, journalists, famous comedians. That, you know, it's amazing, and throughout the whole thing, the Arsenal social media community have been a massive support to me, and you know, I'm not embarrassing any individuals, but they've really been there for me, and they, as I say, in some cases, you know, when I first started going back to games last year, February against Chelsea, the club did a whole page about Liam. There was, at the end of the season, they made up the cannon with Liam's name. It was one of the two. His name was in it twice. The club have been amazing, but the community of Arsenal supporters have been amazing. And I can't speak highly enough of the football community. I don't know the community of social media or other clubs, obviously, but the Arsenal community, to a man and woman, have been astounding.
You know, you say this, we hear this a lot, and I say that with Fulham a lot. The community within Fulham are something else, and I take massive pride in that. And that just goes to show all the negativity that football fans constantly get, constantly receive. It's the Euros, it's the World Cup. Someone throws a bottle, and everybody's tying through the same brush. Yeah, we're coming up to nearly 10,000 miles covered by nearly 600 people in 6 years.
And there's a massive in the last 2 or 3 years, I've got a lot of Arsenal friends who suffer from mental health. And they're able to speak very openly on social media about it, and reach out and sometimes it is as simple as, you know, you're in a dark day, you're in a bad place, you put it out there, and you like, it helps you, because you're going to get those positive messages back. You might get the odd fall, but in general terms, I think the modern football fan has embraced, you know, and people like you've had obviously Marvin Sordell and other footballers who've been very open about issues they've suffered during the game. You know, it's easy for us to say, oh yeah, footballers, they get paid a load of money, it's great, isn't it? You know, how can they be depressed? Well, hopefully we don't hear that sort of stuff anymore. We certainly hear a lot less than we used to.
Massively. I'm not going to lie. When I was growing up, I thought, how could this happen? Like, this person's got so much money. But then, as I got older, I learned, like, if you've got that money, there's got to be so few people you're going to trust, be that women, be that family, because everybody's always after you for one thing and one thing only. So who do you trust? Who do you talk to? Who's your best mates? What's going on? And to me, that's really hit home with me a lot, Deacon, with talking to loads of players that we've had on here. And, you know, it's a lonely place. It's all good having the money, but But it's not really the be all and end all, is it? I'd rather have a good community around me, like yourselves, like the Palace lot, like the Fulham lot, they'll go endless, Celtic lot. Good people around me that I can phone whenever I want, just for a little chat or just to wind up, and like you lot wound me up in the pub when Fulham were losing.
You have to get used to that, presumably.
Yeah, man, I'm used to it. It's fine. This is one of them things. But what we're gonna do, I think that I know Dave wants to scoot off and watch the second half of the Arsenal game.
Well, I can't watch it anywhere, but I was trying. I don't even know what the score is, to be honest.
It's 0-0
I've been so
at the
engrossed
moment.
in this chat. Still 0-0.
It's still 0-0. I've got, as I said, you could probably see it in the reflection here. Actually, you can see the game playing on in the reflection. It's right here.
Is that on a stream?
Yes.
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 Dave, I've got a question for you here. A question for Dave. Have you found that your writing has helped you at all with your grieving process or feelings of depression? Did you find it hard to continue writing?
Is that a question that's come in?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very, very perceptive question, because I 100% entirely lost my mojo last year, and I found writing a real chore. I wrote, obviously, a lot initially around thought what I was going to say at the funeral, and I wrote a blog about Liam, football, and me. I just think you've read Liam, but I didn't publish it because my family didn't want the stuff out there while it was still other stuff going on around his passing. Didn't put it out there till before the start of the last season, about August time, I think. So it was almost, I'd written it in February, but I didn't put it out there. And the reaction to that probably got me going again. And also my daughter got married, which was quite a positive time in August 2019. And in the first part of that year, I just threw myself into work just because I thought it was my way of coping. It was absolute bollocks, by the way. It's a ridiculous way of trying to cope. So I wouldn't recommend it to anyone, but just throw yourself into work. But you learn as you go, you know. So I think I started getting it back maybe towards the back end of last year. And then this year in lockdown, we're all struggling a little bit at home. And my wife started jotting down stuff that she read. She would like notate it and make notes in a book, things that resonated, in a book she was reading or TV program she watched. And she said, "Why don't you do the same?" And I ended up jotting down thoughts. I was walking my dog on my phone, so football aside, I've got my mojo back big time on that. I've started writing sort of stuff about grief, and I've written a lot of poems. Not many, they're not really seen the light of day yet, and whether they ever will, I don't know. But I think actually my wife's now saying, because obviously I obey my wife, she's saying it might be a good idea to put some of them on some sort of website, not yours necessarily, but a website that is about grief and about coping with grief, because some of them are specifically about Liam, but some of them are just how, different
Your
stages of grief and how I felt, and they won't mean the same to everyone, but some of them would help maybe. But I've actually researched, and funnily enough, you think I would be able to find a website that would be about father's grief or whatever. I can't find it anywhere. I'm still looking. But yeah, and also weirdly, and I never thought I'd say this, I've started writing for the Sun as well, which is they reached out to me, and it's not a paper that I'd ever buy, and I don't, we can all go back to Hillsborough, although there's probably been about 20 editors since Kelvin Mackenzie left, but I don't like the politics, but it's just some digital site, and they gave me an opportunity to write a weekly Arsenal fans column for the Sun. So that probably the discipline of having to do something every week rather than just when I felt like it got me back into it. So yeah, this definitely helps. Good question. Very long answer. Sorry.
Perfect answer, mate. It's mate. I think it's a superb answer. I generally. Well, I've asked you to do. We'll speak after the write-up for the walk. Your interpretation of it, which is.
Have you?
I asked you to walk. It's fine.
I had many beers at the end of that walk. I don't remember. I'm more than happy to write some perceptions of the walk.
Deacon.
Yeah, as I said, it's quite interesting you say about the throwing yourself into work. I don't want to go too much. I'm not going to go too much into it, just for time frames and stuff like that. But I've just started CBT training for the first time in my life, where I've actually gone out and sought help as a 33-year-old who's been through a lot. And the terrorist attack that happened last year kind of really, and then the world kind of going topsy-turvy kind of made me really think about it. and it was a traumatic experience anyway within itself. So CBT training is an interesting one, but it's quite funny you say about throwing yourself into work after something that goes on in your life. You think that's probably the best idea, but all you're doing is just suppressing it. All you're doing is just holding it there. And
but
then
do you
when
think
things,
that's a very man thing to do? Just kind of
society tells you to do so.
Just go into work. You have to go into work.
Like obviously because I was on the job when it happened. So, and I've just gone back to work and driving the cars again, a week later, after nearly dying. So it was just like, but you kind of just, as a man in today's society, especially in 2020, the world has gone so topsy-turvy, in every single factor. It's just, you're conditioned to do so, completely conditioned to do so. So I've done 2 courses, 2-hour-long sessions on video, sitting here, talking to someone and just trying to understand why my brain does what it does, and sort of talking about everything. It's been quite an emotional, actually. Normally I'm quite okay talking about the all the stuff that's happened in my past and my near death experience and all of that sort of stuff, but because it's in such a formal setting, it's actually been quite difficult, and it's been really, really draining physically and mentally, more so than I've ever thought. Yesterday I was a complete mess.
Yesterday, didn't we?
Yeah, I was in real pain. I had a splitting migraine. I suffer from headaches 24/7 anyway, due to my bad health. But Dave's completely right. Sometimes you've got to really just sort of talk about it, or find a medium to be able to talk about it. And obviously Dave's got his medium of writing and poem writing, which sounds fantastic. So I really look forward to reading anything that you do release. But sometimes it's never a good idea to sort of keep yourself busy, because it just suppresses, and all you're doing is keeping your mind busy.
One of the poems is actually, it's not a poem, it's more like an open letter, but it's called Coping, and it does talk about, I thought the way to cope was to throw myself into everything and be busy, and it isn't. Yeah. But the other one that is really would resonate, whether it's because of grief or because of mental illness generally, is I think I just called it 2 levels. And it's like you live in life. You'll understand this. You're living life on 2 levels, and whether it's how people perceive you, or whether it's how you're coping yourself. There are 2. You can be happy in the moment. You can go out and have fun with your friends, but it doesn't mean you're fine. But you're very conscious that you have this split level life. You have the day-to-day life that everyone sees, and the degree of normality, and maybe the behind the closed doors, which is a different life. And the question that I raise in my poem is, will the levels ever be the same again? And I suspect not, but it's that question, isn't it? Will those 2 levels meet at some point? I don't know, but that's the unanswered question at the moment. But very much whether it's grief, whether it's depression, whether it's any particular type of mental illness, you have that 2 level thing going on in the perception of other people have of you and the way you feel internally. Definitely.
No, I totally agree. It is, you do just run into things and just try to forget everything, don't you? I think that's exactly what my family done, and that's the way it is, isn't it?
That's the problem though with the COVID. That's the problem with the COVID. We couldn't continue that mindset. It forced our hand. Do you know what I mean? We're forced to play our hand, and actually, especially in this sort of day and age where during the lockdowns and everything like that, you're sort of left alone with your thoughts a lot, and you're really thinking things. And if you're anything like me, overthink things 24/7. So exactly. So it really hammered home, and I was like, right, I really think I need to do something about this now. I've never reached out for help before, but because of COVID and the lockdown and everything, I kind of forced my hand, because I was just not in a good place at all. Every day.
How you finding it?
As I said, it's mentally draining, and my other half had to sort of tell me that it was. I just thought I was just feeling rough, but I was, I've got a short fuse anyway. But after each session, it's purely because it's the setting of where it is. It's not like you're having a beer with a mate and you bring up something that happened and you kind of just laugh and giggle about it and you let it go. This is where you're being analyzed. You're trying to better it and trying to reconfigure your brain with how you're dealing with things and how you're coping with things. So the fact that you're talking about it. So I'm talking about loads of stuff that's happened to me. And obviously, what happened to me last year on the 29th of November at 2 p.m. Never forget it. It's been really draining.
I'm assuming all the listeners know, but obviously I don't know. So,
the terrorist attack on London Bridge last year.
Yeah.
Where all the guys jumped on him and stopped him.
Okay.
Yeah, I was one of those idiots that did it.
All right. Well, bravo.
Yeah. So
no, an idiot, mate. Not an idiot.
Well, yeah, obviously, but watching him, just the fact that he wanted to die, and then just watching him take the shots through his chest and watching him bleeding out on the floor and then running away from gunshots, literally sprinting for your life. We all thought it was a real bomb vest. We didn't think it was fake at the time. He screamed he had a gun and a bomb vest, and we were like, I'm going to die here. Shit, I better ring the other half, babe. You don't think at that time. And there was a handful of us that jumped on him and started just dealing what we could to try and get that knives out of his hand. But anyway, I digress. But that's the situation, Dave, that happened. My name was plastered everywhere in the newspapers, and that was the thing that I didn't like the most, was the media attention. I was hounded for weeks. They would turn up at my nan's house, for example. It was just disgusting. The media are just unbelievable. They really not nice, but it was tough. It was tough. And talking about it, as I said, through the CBT training, I'm finding it difficult, but I'm hoping for a positive, because retraining, rejigging my brain. But she's also said a few things that I've realized that I never really looked into before, about like, I've got very vivid dreams, and she went, yeah, that's connected to the fact that you can't let go of your past and stuff like that. I never really built those connections before, but I struggle to let things go. So I find it very, very hard. But yeah, she's making me realize a few things only in just 2 sessions, but I am finding it tough. More than I thought.
You always got my number. We had a great chat yesterday. You always phone me whenever you want, pal.
Oh, I know, man. I know. I just you're in that mindset as a man. You don't want to bother anyone. Do you know what I mean? It's hard to kind of, not do that.
I think, funnily enough, there's sort of in normal life, you probably think, your mindset is to criticize people for just sending a text or a WhatsApp instead of making a phone call. But I think we've moved on, and I think actually getting that short message just to say you're there, or how are you, or you fancy a beer, or how's your day been, or how's your week been. It's amazing the positive impact just a little message can have when you are in a bad place. Whereas when you're in a good place, you're like, oh, why can't they bloody pick up the phone? It's
bloody right.
It's bizarre, how much those short messages mean. When you are in a bad place. Whereas in a good place, you'd be like, pick up the phone, mate.
I generally.
I think we've got one last question for you, Dave, just before we go. One last question. There is a stereotype that men need to be strong in difficult times. Have you felt any of that? Do you have any advice for others who feel that way in life? I think that covers everyone, really. So,
sorry, I missed the first part of the question. Sorry.
No, there's a perception and stereotype that men need to be strong in difficult times. Have you felt any of that, and do you have any advice for others who feel that way?
Well, that goes back to what I said about the Future Men survey, where 61%.
I've already got the page. Yeah. I've already got the page up on my second screen. I'm already going to be looking through that.
So I think, unfortunately, that is the perception. I think it's getting better, but I think it's an historical perception that man, hunter, should be the stronger. There's no logical reason for that. I mean, I think early on in my grief process and depression, I probably was naturally trying to be strong for my family, but there have been different stages where I've now me and three women, two adult daughters and a wife, so I'm in the minority. And I don't think I've been any stronger than any of them. We've all been strong for each other at different times, and we've all been there for each other at different times. So, no, I think that's a ridiculous perception, and I hope societal views are changing on that.
Well, I totally agree, Dave. I can't thank you enough for coming on. I'm going to let you get back to the Arsenal, but before we go, I want to say Saturday we have another walk. Saturday it's Haywards Heath to Burgess Hill. Obviously, with the news that Premier League ain't going to come back anytime soon. Everybody's more than welcome. Me and my lad are going to do it. Neil's going to do it from Palace. Neil's mate, who met me last night in the Haywards Heath game, we're going to do it. So it's about an hour and a half walk, and you get to see football at the end of it.
Well, when I get back, I'm moving back down to Hampshire next month, all being well. So I'll sort something out when Eastleigh will be my local team down there, or Romsey. So we'll sort something out down there as well. Because Eastleigh's a very friendly club.
Very, very, very good club as well. Very, very, very forthcoming. But Dave, I can't thank you enough. I will call you.
Thank you for having me.
I hope Arsenal win tonight.
So do I.
No, but thank you everybody for watching. Deke, it's been a pleasure as always, mate.
Oh, Dave, it was a pleasure to meet you. Obviously, we've met
Dave.
anyway, but it was awesome to meet you properly.
Thank you for all your comments, people. Like, subscribe, do that rubbish, and let's keep talking. And hopefully, see you on Saturday. Be good. Keep talking.